Sarah, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Nice, warm Sunday.
Where are you living right now? Are you in Florida?
Yeah, I'm in Florida on the Space Coast, so yeah.
Oh, very nice.
I want to visit Florida so bad right now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, as you're aware, we're in the Bay Area, and we're still kind of like flirting with masks out here.
Oh,
And
yeah, I heard.
oh, dude, and I know
Wait,
you
what
probably
are those?
no, you've been living in a world you haven't had anything going on for like a year, right?
Yeah, I don't remember when. Well, actually, I literally don't remember when, but yeah, it's been pretty open for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, we're still, man, there are people driving around with 2 masks alone in their car.
There are still some here who do that in a car by themselves. Like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, maybe they don't know where they've been.
Maybe.
Maybe they don't trust themselves.
I don't know. We did get a lot from the north move down here, so maybe, yeah.
That is true. I imagine that Florida is catching a lot of, a lot of California expats are going to Arizona, Oregon,
Right.
Idaho, and I imagine you guys are getting a lot, New
Yorkers,
DC.
yeah,
Think of all
that
the people
area.
that went to Texas and then got snow. Like,
I know, right? And we got some this past winter. I can't remember. It was like up in the Panhandle, though. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's very rare.
I've only lived in California my whole life, and the
Yeah.
idea of like moving to Texas, you would imagine a desert. I've been there; it's clearly not. But getting
Right.
2 inches of snow, I don't know what
That's
I
a
would
big
do.
deal. Yeah, yeah. It's like, what do I do?
Well, with Texas, you get a little bit of everything because it's so massive.
Yeah, you've
Um,
got every season. Like,
So, Sarah, are you Florida all the way through?
I've been here for about 11 years, so I kind of consider myself a Floridian now. But I'm from North Carolina originally,
Okay.
so yeah.
Good. You're still sticking with those, the East Coast Southern roots there.
Yeah, I love the Southern, hospitality. Yeah, it's just a different world. It really is.
I'm originally from Mississippi, so
so you understand? Yeah.
I'm trying to do my part here in California.
Oh, please do. Yeah.
Save this godless soul sitting across the table from me.
Honestly, I've learned so much from all the people that moved to California. Everybody else, what's weird is, we're in the Bay Area and we have the infamous Zodiac Killer as one of our heroes.
Yeah, you do.
Honestly, I never gave a shit about him until everybody I've met who moved from like New York or we had somebody from Pennsylvania and they were just so into it. And I'm like, weird. I don't know.
Wow.
Because it just wasn't a thing for you growing up?
It's kind of like how you never take the tour bus when you live in town.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But see, on my side, Mississippi, our tourism is primarily based upon gambling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Right.
actually, the Mississippi Gulf Coast is the second biggest gambling destination in the country.
I had no idea.
It's Vegas, and then it's the Gulf Coast. And
There
then
you
we also have the Blues Trail. So that's
Oh,
also sort of a touristy thing, but a lot of people do because there's not much else to do.
right. It sounds like my hometown. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so Sarah, did you move out to Florida to start film school? Because now, just for context, people listening, Sarah submitted a film to the Unnamed Footage Festival that we loved and we've selected. So we brought her on here. But what you do when you're on a film fest and you just kind of get a window into people's worlds, you kind of use the internet as like an investigative tool. We just like poke around. You've got a website. We got a lot of eye candy for us to chew on. And I'm curious, like, how you got into found footage and your journey with film so far.
Yeah, so I've always enjoyed the generic found footage, just that experience. It's just, I don't know, it's so much different than the cinematic experience. So like I was definitely a big fan of Paranormal Activity and Blair Witch Project. And, like a lot of us do, we may not have a lot of money, it's a great way to really make something that we care about, and it's on a lower budget and a lot less logistics. So this one came about. It was 2020 when we shot it. The pandemic had just hit, and my friend from LA came in town. She's actually Anna, the lead actress in the film. She's like, "Hey, I'm in town. Can we shoot something?" So I had this
Did she play
idea.
Morgan?
Yeah, she played Morgan. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, let me, I had a version of the idea already in mind. I was like, we could do this found footage and book an Airbnb and just quarantine with a bunch of ladies. It was all women. And we just quarantined at this house, shot this film, and made it happen. So, yeah.
Now, Sarah, we've programmed your film at the end of Saturday night, which is one of our favorite spots because we have so much heavy lifting all day. And your film is, God, it's like a perfect party movie. And it's so like, it's almost like the third act of the Blair Witch, but like ramped up. And I have a theory that we might be able to get into later of what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, what made you want to tell a story about a mom whose daughter was abducted by a cult?
Well, I guess you may have seen in my blurb, I was in a church cult for about 6 years. So and then I also had been in a very toxic relationship, not a like emotional relationship, but like in a business relationship with a producer. So, and then the pandemic hit and it was, creating this story about a mom going into the woods. And I always like to add soul to my stories. Like it's got to have some meaning to me, So I started forming it around a cult and just experiences I had with gaslighting and toxic relationships. And that's how this kind of started just growing. But yeah, the cult, so it was built out of the cult, the 6 and the symbol in the film. I was at the church cult for 6 years, so that's my mom actually hand drew that symbol. Yeah, and if you if you look at it, looks like a snake eye, but if you actually look up close, it's a middle finger. So it was just it was just awesome.
Here's another thing: all the people that move into California, they all have a much deeper connection with religion. Like my mom, she always told me I should have made you go to church more. And I know, like, you've grown up with like a church and like everybody who moves in. And I don't know, I'm kind of jealous of the interaction now.
Well, so I'd like to, yes. So I grew up, Southern Baptist.
Yeah.
Me too. Well, Independent Baptist. Yeah.
Okay. So that's why I wanted to dig in a little bit there because there's a lot of different sects of the church and it can get really weird really quickly.
Intense.
And it can get very abusive and off what the main goal of Christianity is and
to love people.
So I mean my experience growing up in the church was overall a positive one.
That's good.
And I left on my own volition. I am still dealing with the effects from that from certain members of my family because
I can imagine.
Just the cross I have to bear.
I don't know. You told me about some upbeat bodybuilders. I was really into that.
Oh yeah, what were those guys called? Because I immediately want to call them what they're called in the Righteous Gemstones, but I can't remember.
They're like the Power Troop or something.
What?
Oh yeah. So it was a group, and the Righteous Gemstones on HBO. They are parodying this to a T.
Oh really? Oh,
yeah.
cool.
So it's just a bunch of muscle guys who they break bats and rip phone books in half for Jesus.
Well, to each its own, I guess. Wow, that's intense. Wow.
So yes, sir. So I mean, growing up, when you say a cult, kind of help us paint a little bit clearer picture for that.
So I mean, I grew up Independent Baptist, like they're very strict. Like women wear dresses to church. Just you must be there every service. Just very strict, so it was like priming me for being vulnerable to a cult. I kind of had this point where I was like, God loves me and I want to receive it for myself type of thing. And then I just kind of fell in love with God. I like had a period where I was just like, oh my gosh, God is amazing. Cause I was like briefly suicidal in high school. So finding God for myself was a big deal. And it helped me through a tough time that someone can love me unconditionally, which is what we all want. And that doesn't have to be from God. It can be from anything. We just want to be loved unconditionally, And so I just had this God phase where I was just like, oh, I just want to do whatever it takes. And I want to help people. Like that was another thing. I loved helping helping people. And so I was like the perfect target for a cult church that was like, we want to serve God, we want to help people. And yeah, I want to help people, right? I want to do good. I want to be a good person. I love God. And so I was like the perfect target and fell for everything they said because they were saying the same things I was. But when you get in, it becomes a whole nother story. And it's almost, if you could picture Scientology without the buildings, like it's,
That's
like,
a big part of Scientology.
yeah. Just the way they brainwash people, the structure, us bigger than them, like pretty much all checking box, all the, like for a cult, like literally if the leader said, we're moving to South Africa tomorrow, pray to God, do it right now. God wants you there. You're a slack, Jesus, it's like, most of that church would move to South Africa tomorrow. That's how much power. Like the best way I can describe the leader is like Jim Jones talking.
Right.
Like same, like the way he says things, the way he phrases things, same power over people. So it was hell. So yeah, it's everything's gauged on a scale of what they determine, and basically free slave labor. It's like human trafficking in another form. So yeah.
I know, and the very unfortunate thing with this is that Sarah's story is not uncommon.
Right. Yeah.
We see these things happen all the time.
It truly is. Yeah.
I even back home I see it. Now I think that my level of familiarity with it is a little outside the center of the storm, but you see certain things and you raise your eyebrow of like.
Yep.
And you see personalities change and they're not around anymore, and then you learn about this thing, and then you learn, oh, what is this thing? And I actually I don't want to speak too much on this because I'm posing a lot of theories about this because I don't particularly like this person. But
okay. There's an individual.
Yes, there's an individual
okay.
that I know that I grew up with. That started, his own enterprise of sorts.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, he's got a couple teenage girls living with him and his wife. And
I thought you were talking about like, I had a friend who got caught up in the church, but you're talking about a guy who opened the church.
Yeah, who began his own church.
Yeah, well, it starts in certain circles. It starts with Bible study.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of grows from there. And then now it's like a thing. And then, it just, because, like you said, it's that Jim Jones thing. It's a personality. It's a charismatic personality.
Yeah.
100%. That's where it all starts from. And then, you learn the background of these people. And the majority of the time, these charismatic people, they're hustlers. They're just looking for a new thing, and they're looking for people in dark places who will say yes. And that's the thing, and that's a very predatory thing, and it's a very common thing.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. Yeah,
it's funny you mentioned Jim Jones, another local hero.
That's right, Bay Area.
Right.
It's funny. I was listening to this podcast, Martyr Made, and he did a long deep dive on Jim Jones. And I was talking to my parents about it because, when you get involved in something, you just kind of, anybody who will listen, you just talk at them about it.
Yeah, so that's been my process with you for 7 years.
My parents, it was funny. Their reaction was just, your aunt like went down there. And it was just, you could tell that like my kind of like, I don't want to call it atheist because they weren't really driven against religion, but they're very weary. And you could tell it was kind of being like, just parallel to stuff like that. Like being right next to it and being like, you got to be careful. You don't want to like get hooked up in there.
Absolutely. That's why I was like, this guy could literally say, do this thing and everybody will do it. Like, like stop reading this book or, and they were very into government conspiracies and really extreme. And it's amazing how much power they had over it. And like, if they wanted something from you, whether it's labor, and I'm talking like labor, like 10, 12, 14 hours a day for something you didn't, like in a position you didn't care for or had any skills in, it doesn't matter. Do you love God? Don't you want to be a good person? Then you'll do this thing. You're not, don't be prideful and, and use scriptures and beat you with them. It's pretty insane. Yeah.
All right. Again, I just have some begging questions here, and I'd like to know, how this ended for you, and how you got there, and on your own journey outside of that nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was there elements of like, I know foot washing is a big thing. Was that part of it?
No, not so much with this one, actually.
Okay.
No, they're big into giving, like literally.
Okay.
No, I know,
and no snake handling.
Actually, no, they would make fun of the snake handlers because
See,
they're
that's
crazy,
interesting.
and
That's interesting.
everybody else drinks the Kool-Aid, but not us,
Yeah.
So that's right. So they would always say, "Drink the Kool-Aid," So the Jan Jones reference, So you think, "Oh, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid," but it turns out they are high on the Kool-Aid. But yeah, it's even some things are good. You want to give to people if that's like generally what you love to do. You do want to help people. It's good, but they turn it into something evil,
100%.
Yeah. So, and then they put your relationship with God on the balance, on the judgment seat, So if you don't do what they want, you're a bad person. You're disappointing God. You should get saved, like you're, So it's pretty messed up.
So, at what point did you realize that you had to get out, and when did you get out?
So, crazy enough, even though I knew things were wrong and I was literally having like traumatizing experiences all the time, I wanted to, I was actually running their productions department without any training, like in film world. And I wanted to learn. I loved creating films and I just loved doing it. And I felt handicapped almost because I was like, I don't know. I don't know all the tools. I want to learn. I want to learn. And I finally decided to go to film school. And that's really what caused me to leave. It took me about 3 years to realize I had PTSD because it was deprogramming, like without even having anyone to help you deprogram. So it took me a long time to, break it apart, what happened, and really put a label on it, So yeah.
Now, when you got to film school, did you have any like what was your experience with film before? Do you have any like big influences or particular filmmakers you like?
Well, I always keep going back to Steven Spielberg in the traditional way, like, and people like roll their eyes, like, "Oh, of course," But he's just got a way. I like realism. Like, I like how he can make something like dinosaurs feel like a realistic experience, or a big shark. It doesn't matter whether there's aliens or whatever it is. It makes you feel like in the audience it's real, and there's just something about it. And I always loved his like, he doesn't have like, and he has some things he does stylistically, but I love how each film he considers that's the style, is the story that dictates the style for that, So I loved how his mindset was, and of course breaking apart what he did as a storyteller was always just admirable to me. But then eventually I got introduced to more Kubrick and other fantastic storytellers that I'm also a fan of, and they do impact my work, and I love just what they do, from Nolan, the newer ones, or Chazelle, to the greats, Kurosawa and all them, and Scorsese. I love it. I love.
Did they pepper that in film school?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So they went around different filmmakers, and we digested their style, and this is really great.
Now hold on, let's go back to Spielberg, because the last episode we recorded, Clark was saying how he refuses to watch the Goonies. What else?
What?
You never watched. What else we got? There's a bunch.
Stand by Me.
Stand by Me.
That's not Steven Spielberg, but
okay, yeah.
I was about to say.
No, but you're not a big fan.
Okay. Look, that's not. I wouldn't say that's fair.
You don't have to answer that either. No,
the Amblin thing is not really my thing.
I'm there with you.
New
Amblin. Oh,
E.T.
Back to the Bay Area with Chris Columbus
meant nothing to me.
Okay.
And the Goonies never. Now look, Jaws. Please get out of here. It's one of the greatest films of all time. There's no question.
Mm-hmm.
But when he made Lincoln was the biggest just pile of nothing. It was a splodge I'm not sure if that's a word, but it feels appropriate.
Yeah, I didn't like Warhorse either, so I can say that easily he has some greats, and then there's some not so great.
The Post was horrible.
Here's the thing: I think Steven Spielberg is both. He's like the master of modern film. Like he created the blockbuster, right?
Right.
I think his type of movie is also dead because
that's
Steven
true.
Spielberg.
Well, yeah, because J.J. Abrams killed it.
No.
Oh, that's true. I can kind of agree with that.
Here's the thing. Spielberg, he's the master of hiding the production. Like you watch a movie and it kind of washes over you and you're not distracted by the camera.
Yeah.
And I think now that's kind of helped create the kind of passive, uninteracting audience that we have at home. Where you just kind of, a movie's on and you know what you're going to get and you don't really think about it. Which is literally one of the reasons why we had to start this film fest, because found footage is so counter to that.
Right.
Every move, every pan, the way you make the movie, the way the movie's edited, it's all supposed to be done by a character in the film.
Yeah.
So it all informs you. I don't know. I think his day is past, unless you have like.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. I enjoyed Ready Player One from him, but not as an auteur, like I enjoyed it because it had some interesting elements in it. But yeah, I think he's like, I hate to say it, he's an auteur from the past that we can study and learn from. But today he is doing a lot more misses than hits now, so I didn't even see West Side Story, like a lot of his, like there was a few recent ones, like I didn't have the, I want to go see it because it's Spielberg, like I just didn't, it wasn't engaging to me. It just didn't connect with me. And I just, for some reason, just didn't have the, to get out of my seat and go see it. So, yeah.
It's funny because you mentioned Ready Player One, and I feel like the thing audiences walked away from that was just the IP like montage. Like people loved seeing all the characters together.
Right.
But otherwise, they're kind of like, okay. And it's like, hey, Ready Player One is a massive technical movie. Like that movie would have been crazy in the 80s, but
it wouldn't have worked. Yeah.
It is very nostalgic.
Yeah, that's what I think I really enjoyed out of it. With Spielberg had a good friendship with Kubrick, so as a filmmaker, I think I took more from it than an audience member. And yeah,
so much so he ruined Eyes Wide Shut.
I love Eyes Wide Shut.
I'm trying to elicit Randy to turn his camera on, but it,
Kubrick's been mentioned 3 times and he didn't jump out. So,
sure.
All right. Well, so now you're in quarantine and you're hanging out with your girlfriends and you're going to make a found footage movie.
Yeah.
Now, at what point did you realize you didn't want to be on camera?
Most of the time, I think all the time. It was funny because a producer friend of mine was like, "Why didn't you be the filmmaker?" And I was like, "Oh, I just don't feel comfortable in front of camera. I'm like the behind the camera person."
I'm there with you.
Yeah, I just get awkward whenever there's a camera. Like if you had me do a recording for you for 10 minutes, like I would be re-recording it like 3,000 times because I'm like, So
I recorded a review for we have some friends out in Liverpool and they do a regular YouTube thing and they wanted me to do a review of Megan is Missing. And I recorded video for it. Oh my God. It is so cringy. I have the file on my computer.
It's so hard.
I want to delete it every time I see it. I'm like, I want to just erase that memory.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know. We're here talking to you on video now. I mean, we're not sharing the video, but.
No, well, this is fine because it's engaging conversation. But if I had to like perform in a sense, like it would just be over. It would be totally different.
Okay, so now you mentioned you don't want to be on there. You don't want to be on camera. Your cast. Oh my! I don't think I've ever watched a movie where I liked every member of the cast. Like Morgan, Jessica, and Vex are just like.
Oh my gosh!
When I watched it with Clark, I had already seen it.
Yeah,
like, all right, pick a favorite right now. Like you gotta like. I almost want to cheer for individuals in here. And I'm curious, are they all your friends in real life, or did you cast?
Just Anna was my friend. like I had worked with her since 2015. So we had developed a friendship and artist, like I knew what I could pull out of her. Like I knew how to characterize her ahead of time because I just knew her. The others, Jessica, I'd worked on like one project and she auditioned for another found footage project that I had to shut down when COVID hit. Oh. So I kind of knew what I could pull from Jessica. And Vex she also auditioned for that found footage project. So she was already fulfilling the persona I wanted. So like I made sure they had traits already that because it is improv. So I wanted to make sure that it was already in their system, like I knew that they would portray those characters. So
all right. Yeah. Now Vex had some personality that you knew already.
Yeah.
Now, she is quite intimidating in this film. I believe some of her first dialogue is an argument. And
right.
It's like her man, she just pops off of that damn screen. And I don't know, I couldn't help but like cheer for her.
Yeah.
So how is she in real life? Is she just as intimidating?
Oh no, she's totally opposite. She is so sweet. And she was the newest out because I had relationships with Jessica and Morgan actresses, Anna and Laura, but she was the first one coming to this house and was like, who are you guys? And was like taking, leaping in with us on this crazy journey. But yeah, she's totally nice, like totally an awesome person. Yeah, she's totally different than what you see on screen. Yeah.
Now, did you script out this movie? Did you have like a kind of?
I did an outline, and the girls only knew what the characters knew starting it. They actually had never all met each other before, so it was genuine like meetings. So that was the way I choreographed it. I only had personal meetings to discuss their characters. So when they met each other's characters, it was the first time you're seeing them meet each other's characters on screen.
Excellent decision.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Totally all outlines, and I basically knew the outline. I knew where the story was going. I would give them prompts, each personal private prompts for each scene, and let them just go at it, and yeah, it was really great to see the surprises, and it was genuine, so that was fun.
Also, I do want to throw some commentary about the character of Vex. Is that first of all, I don't know if I've heard that as a name before, as a first name.
Yeah.
But the reason why is because I'm familiar with the term, with the word vexed, and that means problematic, frustrated.
Right. What is this little theory of yours?
That's what I meant. I'm waiting for Sarah to call me a genius.
So I basically gave them a letter of the alphabet because I knew how they would be credited in the credits. So I gave them a letter of the alphabet and said, pick your name, and you'd be comfortable with it. And even they introduced each other. They didn't want to know each other's real name. So they would always, so that improv would be more natural. They always knew each other by their screen name. But Vex, Justine, she picked the name Vex. So that was just, nice. She wanted a strong name, because her character's real strong, being a tracker and all that. So yeah, she just, that was the name that she was drawn to. So yeah.
and then you gave the other actress the letter Y, and she chose Jessica?
Yeah. And the idea, yeah. Oh yeah. She's more of a method actor, which works great because pretty much all of them were method acting. But she was a method actor. So she's like a yes character, like yes, so she really was drawn to that name. So it worked out. Yeah.
No, okay. Damn it. We're only 20 minutes in, but I already want to start talking about theories I have about what's going on in this film.
Okay.
No, because there's so much in here, and I don't want to ruin it because I want.
Yeah, I know, right? There's a lot to digest.
So sell it.
Now here, so I'm curious. There are a lot of scenes at night where we're in a tent, and clearly you're not in there because it's all of our characters filming each other.
Many nights.
And now I know with like Willow Creek and the Blair Witch, they cultivated moments like this by having production outside the tent, like kind of fucking with the people in there. And I get the feeling you might have been doing that.
Yeah. And it was a lot of fun, and they nearly quit a few times. because they were so terrible. Actually, what was more scary was the woods itself, like the Florida jungle. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, talk about you hear everything and you don't know what you're hearing. Like, it just fucks with your mind. Like, so so they had no idea what I was going to throw at them each night. So their reaction was authentic, and that it was all them.
So where did you film? Did you film in like a nature reserve? Where were we?
Kind of. It was near Ocala Forest, but like a forest off of Ocala Forest.
Okay.
So yeah, we were kind of like southeast of that. It was just a nice area. It worked out. It's actually literally neighborhoods like nearby. So if they wanted to like walk, they would not be stranded. But yeah.
Now, again, I'm lived in California my whole life. We don't even have weather out here. And
Right.
when I think of camping in the Florida jungle, I just imagine crocodiles under every bush.
Yeah.
On every
There are no crocodiles in North America.
I imagine
Yeah.
dinosaurs, and I just them walking around. I'm like, oh my God, they're incredibly brave.
Yeah. Well, there was coyotes, which they're scared of humans. So coyotes weren't a threat, but there were
when they
bears.
fight you, they will eat you out of your butthole.
No, they won't.
Coyotes will. They attack the butt first.
Oh my gosh.
How do you know that?
Yeah, maybe. That's interesting. There were Florida bears. We were in bear country. No gators because we were away from water, so we didn't have to worry about gators. And snakes, I think I actually nearly stepped on a little tiny snake, but they're like the non-poison ones. And then I freak out, and then I'm about to step there again, and there's a second motherfucker right there. So it was like that, but that was the most we've seen of snakes. But lots of chiggers. Those are the worst.
Wait,
oh my gosh. They're like really tiny and they itchy like hell, and and if you step in a nest, which is common, they will be climbing all over. It's like a horror movie. They're just climbing everywhere, and it's so itchy, and you got to have a serious shower to get, and they're like not coming off, so they're definitely a nightmare. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Are they ants or spiders or
they're just, if you know what a tick is, it's like it's like a tiny, tiny version of that, but they're so small and they'll be everywhere. There's like a ton of them. It looks like a horror movie. It's like they're, all over.
They're bed bugs that don't sleep.
Yeah. Pretty much. So like everybody had to wear long socks and, long sleeves, everything to keep them off. Just make sure you're covered because they suck. So, yeah.
God. So, Sarah, how many days were you out there filming?
It was 8 shoot days, with, I think like 4 or 5, I think it's 5 nights in the woods, or 4 nights. Like technically some of the characters leave. So yeah, it was about 7 days total, but then 4 or 5 we were hardcore in the woods. So yeah.
God, how much staying through the night?
Yes, they did stay in the night.
Oh, Lord.
Except the last 2 nights, we heard a bear noise, and it was like, we're done. And we camped the tent because they wanted to stay method, so they put the tent in the Airbnb like yard. So that second to last night, they were in the tent in the yard, and then the next one, I think all the characters are gone. Or I think I'm spoiling it now. Whoops. So anyway, so most of it, it was in the woods.
Now, were you doing anything else to kind of create a heightened anxiety? Like, I know at one point their food turns.
Yeah, so about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like they pretty much had the cameras the whole time, and I would give them prompts during a day. And I wasn't with them during a lot of the daytime stuff. So what we would do is we would go and do a visit and make sure they had everything they need, like legitimately, like make sure they were okay. There was literally like, not far from civilization, and we were just like on our phones while they were recording their scenes. And so when we come and do set visits, we would all have a routine. We're going to take your bags. That's it. We're just going to take your bags while y'all refresh or, get more whatever you need. And then that's when we would do things. And there was a lot I didn't include that didn't make it into the final cut. So, I stole a lot of things.
I was going to ask you about that because the one thing with found footage movies is you usually have a director, writer, star, editor. And they're kind of, behind the behind the steering wheel the whole time of the production.
Right.
Now, not only are you not one of the cast members, but the cast has 2 cameras. So I'm curious, how much footage did you end up with?
It was about 35, 36 hours in the in the final whatever collection. And then of course 2 cameras. So a lot of footage that had to be cut together. And then there were times where one wasn't shooting and the other was. So it was a lot of really stressful, like lining up all this footage. So that was really interesting.
There's a moment towards the third act where they reach a location in the jungle. And they're interacting with some stuff. I'm trying to be very careful here.
Yeah, I know, right? It's hard.
And one of the things about found footage is I can't help but think of the editor in every moment. And I know you have 2 cameras, and there's a particular moment where there's a reveal, and the other camera woman steps in front of the shot. And I just remember thinking, oh, that must have been like cutting this thing must have been intense. Because they're really not like when you watch a movie like The Sacrament, again, with Vice and Jim Jones, we have filmmakers in there who their steady hand and trained eye is so apparent.
Right.
Here, it really feels like this is some recovered footage.
Yeah.
So, how much of a nightmare was it to edit this movie?
It was a massive nightmare. I mean, there was one whole entire dramatic scene where Vex told Morgan to put down the camera. So I have their feet for an entire scene of amazing drama, but it's of their feet. Great improv, ladies, but we gotta get it on camera. So but it really works well. Like you said, it does feel more found footage because it's not all perfect. It feels like authentic, like these ladies went out and shot it themselves. So it didn't work out, but it was hell to edit, that's for sure. And some of the audio would pop out. Like I had these amazing mics on the cameras and they wouldn't plug the audio in all the time. It would just be dangling. You could see it in the other shot, the wire just dangling. You're just like, oh my gosh.
What the hell? Jessica's supposed to be a filmmaker. Why isn't she?
Yeah. Well, that was part of her characterization too, is that she didn't so much know what she was doing. So it kind of worked, So she was kind of a BSer in a sense. So it did work out for her characterization, but not so much for editing.
As all filmmakers are, am I right?
That's true.
Sarah, it's funny how deep those characters, Jessica and Vex, are. Because you have Morgan, who's like a grieving mother who's on the brink of losing it. Like she's hiring a tracker and a filmmaker to go in the fucking jungle to find a cult.
Yeah.
And she's got this weird book. And you're like, where'd you get that book? And she's got this idea of the color yellow is the guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, Jessica, she comes in and she's kind of looks like she's trying to portray like a 90s filmmaker. Like she's got like fishnets on her hand. And And you're like, are you really a filmmaker? But then you also got Vex.
Who's coming in with masculine energy.
Well, it's like Vex reads to me as somebody who is like running from something or is insecure, and she's putting up this front.
Yeah.
Also, I'm like, Vex, you're not a tracker. Like, why? Like, you had that
terrible tracker.
When that map vanished. Okay, late spoiler, but deal with it. I was like, oh God. And there's always this subtext that like, you're dealing with a cult in what feels like kind of a rural area. Every character feels like, are they in that fucking cult? And for a while, I'm like, dude, Vex is gonna kill you.
Right. Oh, I love it. Yes.
Did you give them like details of where they should be from, or did they both like create that 3D character they played?
Yeah, well, that's where the talks before the shoot was. I individually met with all of them several times to discuss their character and where it was going, what did they want, all the typical things to build a character. Like they knew who they were, like individually. It didn't matter, which is like the way filmmaking really is. You really doesn't matter what the other characters want. It wants what your character wants, and so that's all they knew coming into it. And it really came across like their individual personalities. That was amazing. Yeah.
I mean, you really lucked out there because they created two characters that almost like form a perfect yin yang. They
Yeah.
complement, like Jessica's kind of like diminished as the story goes on and gets really like almost like in a like metaphorical fetal position.
Yeah.
Where Vix, it's like the claws come out. Like
Yeah.
She's like she's ready to throw down. And then Morgan, who's kind of like unfazed and is just driven.
She's focused. Yeah.
She's just fucking dealing with these people she has.
Yeah, she said, yeah.
You really captured. There's a thing I like about found footage, and it doesn't have to be like. I mean, I have to be careful here. There's like a raw energy that you can get in like a found footage film, and it shows up in like Sacha Baron Cohen's work too. Like anytime you have an element of chaos in your movie, I think that's where I really like attune to.
Yeah.
And you can feel it just not being present in the tent or out there. Like they're on their own, but they know what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I just love watching that unfold because you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And, to compare that with Steven Spielberg, you always know kind of what a traditional Hollywood arc is going to be.
Yeah.
And you learn the beats, and eventually you don't even have to look at the fucking screen anymore.
It's a typical structure. Yeah.
You can't look away from the fucking Zand Order.
Well, that's good.
It's great. I mean, so you've shown it at other film fest. How was the reaction there? Like, have you seen it live in a theater before?
Yeah, it was at one festival over here in Florida. Unfortunately, it seems like it'd be beneficial. It was during the Halloween weekend.
Yeah.
But it was in downtown Orlando where everything shuts down to do Halloween things. So the attendance dropped like massively during certain periods where our film was screening, and even they were learning. They're like, yeah, this isn't working. Plus they kind of had a thing with masks, so I think it may have turned off some of the audience, but I won't go there.
No, it's it's something that we think about too, because even though like we're the complete opposite over here and we're still kind of like buckled up, I just don't know if people are going to be ready to go out. And honestly, I feel I feel like so we bring this up a lot, but the Unnamed Footage Festival 3, we kind of ushered in COVID. Literally the week after it ended, they went full lockdown.
We went lockdown.
And now I feel like the stars have aligned and we're back and it's over. But I just hope people know. I hope they're confident. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think this festival was dealing with. It was their first time going live too. And even though it was in Florida, they just didn't know how to brand themselves with, it was so and plus it was in downtown Orlando where parking is so sucks already. But then their Halloween activities were blocking all these streets. And I mean, you're from a big city, so I mean, or to picture LA being partially shut down, or certain like downtown areas. That's what it was like. It was like a pain in the ass even for me to park, and I came early, barricades were up everywhere. So I can understand why, but I had a great reception from those who did show up. That was really cool. They had some cool questions and they were just like, whoa, so that was neat.
What is downtown Orlando like? Is it all just fake building facades and it's just like a real movie set?
Yeah, it's typical city. Like that's the way it's typical, like boring city. It's parking sucks. I don't go there normally. There's like clubs and downtown life happening. So
there's a lot of darkness in downtown Orlando.
Yeah, exactly. This stirs things up. So anyway, it's not fun.
So they shut down for Halloween. Do they have like a big celebration out there? Or?
Well, a lot of the clubs, like literally, we would be, even during the day, there were people walking around in costumes, and I'm talking club costumes. I'm not talking like adult costumes, like I'm talking like adult costumes, like a lot of the clubs are down here on the downtown. So that's what all the main streets around this theater were shut down for all these events where all these clubs and bars were having contests and things like that. So it was interesting.
Wow, you in one moment filled my life with fantasy where I imagined everybody in costume, and then you in adult costume, and it's like the Freddy Krueger costume I imagine turned into a like very skimpy hot.
Exactly. There you go. That's it.
Not the same. Like trick or treating and like celebration.
No. This is definitely full adult. So yeah, yeah.
Power to the film fest trying to like bring some horror out there during late October. I mean, I feel them.
Yeah. I think maybe if it was in a different spot, it would have been maybe a little bit different. More people would be more receptive to horror films. But yeah, it was just a weird setup with the COVID being back and then downtown. Yeah, it was a bad combo. So yeah, it was interesting to see like the attendance just massively drop. They had a lot more during Friday of that week, but yeah, it was not good.
So, Sarah, you mentioned that the cast they knew they had the character stuff down. You met with them individually, but when they met for the first time, and then there was sort of an outline of what was happening. But there are points in the film, seminal points in the film, to where the team encounters certain challenges, puzzles per se.
Yes.
How much did they know about the elements involved with those situations going in, if any?
Nothing. Literally. Sometimes I'd had to find ways to get their attention that there's something waiting for them. So then you'd get some of their reactions that got in the film. But they would literally open up their tent and just go with the flow. Like
that comes across. Yeah, that comes across. Yeah. Especially, we have one thing where it's a sort of behind door number 1 situation.
Yes.
Boy, you could feel that tension. They did not want to open any of those up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Leave the tent. Every time they're like, "Oh, you want to go out?" They're like, "No."
Yeah. Well, and that's what I had to make sure there was always a character that was like a certain way, so they wouldn't all seem okay. We'll go after that strange thing in the woods. No, real people wouldn't do that. So I had to always make sure their character dynamics made sense, that they would go and do this thing. And Morgan was key because she was like, "We gotta fight this." Yeah. So. Yeah, they didn't know at all what to expect at all. And that scene, it's funny, that scene actually was much longer. That's how long it took for them to get through. It was so intense. So, yeah.
Now, okay, so there are 3 ladies in the tent and they're filming each other. Was it just you in the dark in the jungle, or did you have people with you?
I had a production assistant and an art director. So I had 2 people. My art person was never with me as the PA was with me. And we couldn't use our flashlights. So, because they would see us, so we would be walking through the Florida jungle to set shit up and like hope no one sees us. Like sometimes pop our phone light up and hope, nothing distracting. But yeah, it was so creepy. But your eyes do adjust, so it gets a little bit better. It actually is kind of less creepy than if you use your flashlight, everything darkens around you. But it's still like crazy creepy.
It almost sounds like you had the harder job here.
It was, and you had to be super quiet and like can't see anything. Yeah, it was intense.
So when they were shooting, they never saw you.
No, that was the idea. Is that
except for the production check-in,
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that was it. I mean, we had more hands-on towards the end where there was a lot more happening, but if they saw me, they were told not to see me, but, just ignore me, just move your camera and just keep going on. So there was a couple points where they did catch me, but kept going. But most of the time I was hidden and tried to stay, because the cameras can go they're improvising. It could go any direction. So I had to make sure to totally be hidden. It was funny. There was one scene in the very beginning where it was the first night and I was on this main road and I'm just like walking on the main road, like crouched down. And then they swing their cameras and they see me just like right there and pretend like I don't exist. And it's like so awkward. Wow. And it's like, oh, do you see something? You know, it was so funny. It was like I think it ended up in their dialogue, like they saw something. But yeah, it was kind of weird, but yeah.
Now, you had 2 cameras, 35 hours of footage on each. You're looking at 70 hours to cut down.
Good math.
Of 2 different films. Like, no, I just want people to realize that when you cut this thing down into an hour 10, like you're trimming the fat here. And one, I want to say we deeply appreciate that. When we see a runtime of like 70 minutes, like, I mean, everybody's swimming in content now. There's fucking Hulu, Paramount Plus, there's Netflix. And it's like, when you see an hour 45 runtime or 2 hours,
you better earn it.
You're like, who the hell are you? How dare you spend an extra half hour? And, I mean, we are blessed that found footage films, we get editors who cut them down.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
So was that were you in pursuit of just keeping a very like quick and like well-paced movie? Were you just trying to be entertained, or did you have to like just throw a lot on the floor?
Oh my gosh. Well, I honestly planned for too much. Like I didn't know like how much this would compact together and how much couldn't be used. And, you know, so I planned for too much really for the film. So a lot ended up on the cutting floor. So yeah.
Okay. Well, you know, I've been telling people there's kind of a little bit of like a Saw element to this movie, and we're almost at an hour mark. So I'm curious, was there any like, I don't know, trap element that just got completely removed from the film?
Yeah, there was one, and it was the second night one. There was a table. We put out a whole dining table, so the girls come upon this like dining table in the middle of nowhere, and there was like bugs and shit, and and a little poem, you know, they had a little puzzle to solve, and then a gunshot, which actually part of that ended up still in the film. I just cut out the whole table and repatched it, you know. So yeah, there was a whole dining table scene that was really creepy.
So
and
did
a lot
you bring
of
a gun out and fire it?
No, I had a really pitiful boombox that had a gunshot on it. It was terrible. It wasn't very realistic. I do have a concealed carry in Florida.
Rad.
I probably should have just shot it in the ground. We were out in the woods. Nobody would have cared. It was normal to hear gunshots. So, because there's hunting areas, like we weren't in that one in a hunting area, but like, yeah, like I probably should have just done that to get that reaction. Yeah, but the girls still did decent, you know, with reacting to my fictional, boring gunshot. That sounded cheesy.
And, okay, the last thing we got to know, where did you wrangle all these bugs from? Were we at a bait shop like the morning prior?
Yeah, I stopped at several bait shops to get a variety of bugs. Like I wanted options. So, I wanted the most creepy, nasty things that, yeah.
those were nice worms. Were those Florida night crawlers?
Yes, I had those. Yep. Oh yeah, lots of those. He
corrected me. We were watching that damn movie. I'm like, dude, check out the worms, and he's like, they're Florida night crawlers.
Yes. Yes, I love those ones. Those look great.
I know bait shops, dude.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, all the crawlies were real. That was awesome and creepy.
Well, fuck, Sarah, thank you so much for finding our fest and submitting.
Yeah.
Really, you know, again, Saturday night, it's going to be a rough day. We got a lot of heady films, a lot of slow pace, and we're going to end this thing with this kind of energy that you can only get in found footage horror, and the kind of filmmaking that you can only get when there's no rules. And
yes.
We have failed to mention this: no men.
Oh, I know.
It's
incredible.
It's so good.
Now, here's the thing: we live in the Bay Area, and we get a lot of fucking virtue signaling. We get a lot of like, you know, it's just like empty gestures. And you know, I watched this movie, and I just remember thinking, dude, there's no men in here. And it's kind of amazing. Yeah. Like, you just love it. Like, I love that. Like, if there was a dude in that tent, I feel it would have changed the whole thing.
The energy would have been different. Yeah.
Dude.
Well, yeah, because it would have completely negated, you know, Vex's vibe.
Yeah.
Like if Vex was a dude, you would just hate him.
Yeah.
Instead, it'd be so typical. It'd be typical, you know, like we've seen this before, you know?
No, there is incredible depth with Vex. And,
yes.
And I think to put a penis in that tent, we would have ruined.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, she did amazing. Yeah, it would have totally changed it. It would have been a different, like, and two, I was like glad because Blair Witch had 2 guys and a girl, you know, like this was just different. You know, I wanted it to be different too.
Well, another thing you broke up there was the Blair Witch, you know, I mean, it was such a pivotal movie. What a lot of people took from it when they were like basically ripping it off was that they thought we need a dynamic of like a bullheaded kind of cameraman. We need a strong female lead, and they're just going to clash, and the whole movie's fighting. And it's the dynamic just, I don't know, it gets so tired after a while. And
it does.
Well, you broke it up by just having 2 cameras. And one of them's kind of the host, like our lead, Morgan.
Yeah.
And it, like that element is just completely shattered. Like it's like, this is like the Blair Witch, but yet not at all.
You're right. Yeah. Well, that's what I was aiming for. So I was really, because I was like, I really want this to be our own, like, you know, story and experience. And so that really did turn out really well. So
Man, I wonder what our Bay Area audience is going to think when we're
I am so curious because I always think of the end and like, you know, looking back at the clues, because there's a lot of clues to who these characters are. Every person is significant in this film. So yeah.
I mean, it's just this thing's gonna be like, hey, out of the Florida jungle comes like a micro budget film, and it's fucking bonkers and it's amazing. And I feel like people are gonna come in here with like judgment because of Florida. Like, our country's at a weird like standoff.
It is.
We're gonna come in here and find a movie that's full of like incredible like feminine energy, like even the cult, like with the yellow theme. I'm like, and they steal the little girl. Like, I'm gonna be challenging people in that crowd to be like, what did you come in thinking and what do you leave thinking?
Yeah, I'd be so curious because it does leave open-ended about who that cult is and who's who, you know, like, so yeah. Right. There's a lot of clues in there if you look for them.
All right. You got anything else for Sarah? I want to wrap this up and give her my theory. I don't want to put it out there for
Oh yeah. I'm curious.
Chomping at the No, Sarah, we love the film. We are super, super, super excited to show it. And again, you know, and to be clear, this is a coveted spot we gave this to. Because, you know, that closing night, the first night of the festival. That's we got big shoes to fill. And so, you know, we always make a very conscious decision there, and I think that we're going to have a great success. And again, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's truly an honor.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Overlook Hour. And if you would like to hear more, please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your podcatcher of choice is. And while you're there, go ahead and give us a rating and or a review, which is a very easy way for you to support this show that we bring to you every week for years now, free of charge. And as always, you can find us on YouTube at The Overlook Theater, Instagram at The Overlook Theater, Facebook at The Overlook Hour, and Twitter at The Overlook Hour. Last but not least, you can send us your emails and tell us how much you like or dislike the show at overlookhour@gmail.com. And if you're nice, maybe we'll read them on the show. I've been your engineer, Randy Stat. Please join me along with Clark, Russell, and Oksana again next time. Bye.